Okay. Although if you need to say something. Oh, Hare Krishna, everybody. It's me. Just me again. I'm speaking with a devotee, a very sincere devotee. And that devotee presented some questions. And I think the questions are intelligent and of general interest because a lot of devotees have to deal with situations like that. So I thought that I would, make an extra buck here. Why not? I thought I would broadcast this so that other devotees could also hopefully maybe get some benefit. So it's an honest way to make a living, right? So I'm going to get to the questions now. Okay, here's one. In the Mahabharata, why was it wrong for Karna to be deceitful in trying to become a warrior if he was only following his nature? Later, Krishna says that one must follow their dharma. Can an act in service to following one's dharma be wrong? Very good. These are intelligent questions. Why were the Pandavas allowed to be deceitful when they were pretending to be mendicants and when they went incognito, and Karna is not? Okay. Well, everyone is entitled to a lawyer, and Karna has his. So I'm not suggesting that being deceitful should be allowed. I'm just trying to understand the concept of dharma more deeply rather than just following rules for their own sake. Okay. First of all, Karna, it's true that Karna, you could say, was deceitful. He presented himself as a Brahmana to Parashuram, who would only teach a Brahmin. And the Pandavas also, on various occasions, presented themselves with false identities. But what is different here is the circumstances. The circumstances are entirely different. In the case of Karna, it's not clear that he could not have served according to his nature, which, of course, as you point out, he had a God-given right to do. He could have, as it turns out, he could have served according to his nature without cheating. Because when he showed up at the graduation ceremony of the Kuru Military College, for no apparent reason, for no reason given in the Mahabharata, he seemed to just hate Arjuna and wanted to humiliate Arjuna. And considering that Arjuna had lost his father, and it was just not a nice thing to do. So Karna is not just always the victim here. The circumstance is that he lied when his life was not in danger, and when he did have other options. He lied to a guru. It's like even nowadays in America or any other country, if you lie in your college application and the school finds out about it, then you don't get in. Now, if you look at the Pandavas, when the Pandavas were deceitful, it was usually to save their life. To save their life. If someone is trying to kill you, and not the government for good reason, but if someone is trying to murder you, criminally murder you, and you get away, I mean, every hero movie Hollywood ever made, the hero sometimes has to sneak away or lie or something. So lying to save your life from criminal murder is not exactly the same thing as lying just because you're ambitious and you want everyone to respect you, or because you lust for power. So Karna, the circumstances were very different. And the reason I say he didn't have to lie is because Duryodhana made him a king and engaged him according to his nature. Because it turns out he was lying just out of personal ambition. The Pandavas were lying out of a justified right to save their lives when people were trying to criminally murder them. So you understand, I mean, There's definitely differences. As far as, yeah, so that's the difference. So in performing household duties, what if one's spouse is not fully vegetarian? What if one has been with another person for many years and both husband and wife were raised as meat eaters, but one of the people in the relationship, one of the people, is that English? One of the persons in the, I guess English is the first thing to go. So one of the people, one of the persons in the relation, or say that both the persons, both the man and the woman were raised as carnivores, and the person's asking this question is being kind and gracious, remembering how difficult it was for this person to change their old habits. So therefore, this person can relate to their spouse's a lack of awareness. However, sometimes when the spouse requests this person to cook meat or just buy it, it's a struggle. It causes me a lot of distress to even have to purchase meat, what speak of cooking it. Not being able to offer it and give in to this person. This person considers cooking to be an act of love, but it's definitely not that when meat is involved. And so this devotee doesn't want to be combative, just wants to stand my ground on this, but do it in a mature and reasonable way. So that's very nice. I really appreciate this attitude. I know I can't force this other person to make the change. And this person is making so many changes, getting closer to Krishna, that may just be a matter of time. Am I acquiring negative karma even though my intention is to do my duty as a spouse? Can it be proper duty when it harms us both? You once said an act is defined by its consequences. Does this apply here? What are my thoughts? That's okay. Sannyasis specialize in marital advice. It's, it's like wherever we can charge a fee, we're ready. We have advice for you. Paying customer, doesn't matter the topic. So I'm trying to discern how to properly apply Krishna consciousness in an intelligent way without compromising our principles in the world that is telling everyone very loudly that sense gratification brings happiness. Oh God, that is so dumb. And where I'm a minority. Okay, first of all, and I don't at all mean this, I don't mean to be unkind to your spouse, but I think, as they say, this is not rocket science. I mean, if someone knows that to you, killing an animal is murder, I mean, what if by some bizarre karma you had married a cannibal? And, and your cannibal spouse wanted you to go out and get some human meat. And so I think, honestly, on this one, I think that you have a right. You have absolutely every right to say that this particular activity to me is extremely horrific. Because when I see meat, I see the body of a murdered victim. And it's traumatic for me. So if someone loves their spouse and they know that a particular activity, you say, I'm not, to use the cliche, I'm not judging you. Actually, when you point your finger at someone, you have three fingers pointing at yourself. There's an easy way to get around that. You just point the other way. And that way you have three fingers pointing at the other person, only one at yourself. But that's some practical advice there. But I think in this case, considering that, I mean, rightly and understandably, meat it's actually traumatic for you. It's not just that we don't do things that way. It's actually you are seeing a murder victim, and it's traumatic. And so I think on this one, the spouse has to understand what's at stake here, emotionally and spiritually for you, and that you just can't participate in murder. You just can't. You just cannot participate in murder. And what if a spouse said, "If you love me, help me kill this person"? You can't do it. So, yeah, on this one, I don't want to be a family wrecker. although sannyasis do take a certain dark pleasure in that. But so, yeah, on this one, I think asking you to participate in the murder of innocent creatures is over the line. And you could say, you know, on other things, we're really trying to help each other, but this is just too much. It's a moral issue. It's not even Krishna consciousness, it's just a basic moral issue. So next, it seems that a lot of confusion also comes from some misunderstanding about the duty of a woman in a household. There are so many views and opinions about what being a good wife means, and often I can't tell what is truly based on Shastra. There's also some confusion because some of Srila Prabhupada's words regarding women get misunderstood. My understanding is that he was speaking about differences on the material platform, but this doesn't always help me knowing what is truly part of my sacred duty and what is being imposed by a traditional society and culture. How can I tell the difference? Good questions. Really good question. First of all, we have to live in the society that we live in. That's one thing. And the duty of a woman's duty is never to tolerate abuse. That is never a woman's duty. And I'm not saying that anyone here is being abused. I'm just saying, though, that there are lines, there are boundaries. And Prabhupada, even the Shastra says one should stay with one's husband as long as he's not abusive. And one should not stay with an abusive anyone. I mean, we just should, we should not tolerate abuse from anyone. That's one point. A duty of a woman, first of all, a woman's first duty and a man's first duty is to be Krishna conscious. Because if you're not Krishna conscious, everything else is not really worth that much, according to the Bhagavatam. So our first duty is to be Krishna conscious. And we have the example in the Bhagavatam when the wives of the ritualistic Brahmins refused or forbade their wives to go to Krishna. And they just said, like, no. They just said no. And they went anyway. So it's not that these cultural things are absolute and take precedence over Krishna consciousness. Again, in a marriage, husband and wife, they should both give and take. It has to be give and take. They have to try to work with each other. They have to be tolerant. I mean, my God, living with another human, that is so scary. So, and there's even husbands and wives who, I guess because of really bad karma in a past life, only have one sink in their bathroom. So, yeah, but as far as a woman, another thing is that that men and women, like among women, they have different natures. It's not enough to say woman. Is a woman a Brahmana by nature? Is she a Kshatriya by nature, a Vaishya or a Shudra? And not only that, apart from her Varna, just what is her personal nature? For example, among Krishna's wives. Krishna's own wives, Rukmini was deferential and a little shy, although she wasn't so shy when she wrote that, not wrote, but when she sent that famous message to Krishna. But Satyabhama was the opposite. She was very outspoken and sort of, you could say, was really very fiery with Krishna. And he went and stole a parijata tree from heaven for her, which just caused so much trouble for everyone because she said, I want that tree. So in fact, it's even said in the Bhagavatam that Krishna's wives thought that he was kind of a henpecked husband. They thought they'd really got him under control. And although he was just playing, so we shouldn't have these stereotypes in our mind, like the woman just kind of, her main service is to suffer and just be submissive and basically not show any symptoms that she's an adult. That's not what it is. The husband and wife are supposed to cooperate with each other. They're both adults. They both have their rights. They both need to have a life which works for them. And so marriage is just husband and wife negotiating and just finding a way that they can live happily together. There has to be mutual respect. Respect cannot go one way. That's not a relationship. That's abuse. Respect has to go both ways. And it's really just about both people being nice people and not being, well, there's words I can't use here in public, but, just not being a jerk, not being obnoxious and narcissistic or just wanting to control the other person too much. It's about two people that have to be mature, they have to be adults, there has to be goodwill, they both, obviously there has to be give and take. If you just want to do things your way, don't get married. Because marriage is a partnership, and there has to be give and take. You can't get married and have everything your way. That's cheating. You get married, it's teamwork, and you've got to compromise, both parties. So I would say that obviously men are men and women are women. There's plenty of books like that. Men are from Mars and women are Venus, all that stuff. I mean, there's a million books on that. There's a lot of social science, but ultimately you just have to be real people, and you have to respect each other, and there has to be compromise and give and take. It's not that in marriage it's a man's world and it's not a woman's world. It's a partnership. So let's see. Those were the questions. Let me see if anyone on Facebook has a question. I'm trying to look at the Facebook questions. One devotee wrote, "Thank you, Maharaj. You know more about marriage than two of my ex-husbands." That is a real compliment. Anyway, thank you for that. I guess those are all the questions. So if there are no other questions, did you have any other questions? Do you want?
Is it okay to ask you now?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So also there's some things I've heard about people having a personal relationship with Nrsingadev, and that there's a lot of fear that people will impose on this personality of Krishna, such as, that he'll basically ruin your life if you pray. And
that's sweet. Okay. It's about worshiping Lord Nrsingadev, Narahari, and having a relationship. And some devotees say, I wonder if there's anything at all that some devotees don't say. I mean, it's just when I think I've heard it all, it turns out I haven't heard it all. So, that they're afraid of Lord Nrsinga. Prahlad wasn't afraid. Prahlad was just very loving. And I mean, like they say, if everything else fails, read the instructions. So if you read the Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj wasn't afraid because he loved the Lord. And he was actually very affectionate to Lord Nrsinga, and Lord Nrsinga was very affectionate to him. So if you're not a demon, then you probably have nothing to fear from Lord Nrsingadev. So
it's a very Catholic attitude, right? To be
Catholic
afraid.
Attitude. Yeah, I was nothing against Catholicism. I just had the good fortune not to be born Catholic. And I say that because I've heard so many horror stories from people that were born Catholic, and I'm sure there are many good people who are Catholics, and I'm sure there are some priests who are very good priests and all that. And but I just heard so many stories of people who had bad experiences. Yeah, we have to be Krishna conscious. We have to be Krishna conscious, and fearing Krishna, we should only fear Krishna to the extent that we're really doing bad things. And if we're not doing really bad things, then I mean, Lord Nrsinga is Krishna, the same person. We are actually monotheists, and so Lord Nrsinga is Krishna. They're the same person, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that you'll be happy and peaceful when you understand that I'm actually your loving friend. So Lord Nrsinga is ultimately our loving friend.
Okay, so I have one more. And are there some, obviously there's a practical aspect of initiation and a guru as a guide, as a real person to help you and clarify. But I'm wondering if there are also there's a metaphysical component to that. Sometimes you hear some extreme things like, everything you do, your guru will take on your bad karma and they'll suffer greatly, and
wow. Yeah, let me repeat that question for people out there on Facebook land. That this devotee understands that basically the relationship with the guru is spiritual. The guru is trying to help the disciple to advance in Krishna consciousness. That's basic job description. But then she's heard some metaphysical or mystical things about how the guru takes on the karma of the disciple and so on. And yikes. Okay, regarding that, first of all, we know that Prabhupada talked about the guru being affected by the karma of the disciple. I'm not aware of any shastric reference to that. I'm not aware, maybe there is, but I'm not aware of any shastra that talks about a guru taking the sinful reaction to the disciple. Also, I mean, personally, I don't really want anyone's karma. No, thank you. I think I'll pass on that one. They, come around with little trays like with karma hors d'oeuvres, and no, I think I'll pass. And also, the Brahma Samhita clearly says, karmani nir dahati kintu cha bhakti vajam. Just to indra gopama vendra mahosa karma bandhanu rupa phala bhajanam atanoti, that the Lord extends to everyone, whether it is Indra Gopa, which is like this little creature, like an insect, whether it's Indra Gopa or mighty Indra, the ruler of heaven, and everyone in between. The Lord extends to everyone reactions to their karma. And they're bound by the reactions to their karma. However, karmani, just the plural of the word karma, like these reactions. Karmani nir dahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. But the Lord literally burns up, nir dahati, burns up all the karma of those who lovingly accept Him. Karmani nir dahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. Govindamadi purushantamaham bhajami. So that's what we read in Shastra, that Krishna burns up the karma of those who take shelter of Him through a bona fide guru. And Shastra does not mention the guru accepting the karma of the disciple. So as we know, Prabhupada said that. I'm not rejecting what Prabhupada said, but Prabhupada did tell me in a letter when I was a grihasta, actually, a temple president in Gainesville many moons ago, and I guess many suns ago, and many Venuses ago. Anyway, so a long time ago, that was 1971. Wow, that was 47 and a half years ago. Wow. Anyway, Prabhupada said that we do not engage in mental speculation, so we don't doubt what Krishna says, but we do engage in what Prabhupada called philosophical speculation, which means that, he said, Prabhupada gave the example, Krishna says, I'm the taste and water, so I accept what Krishna said, but what does it mean? Prabhupada said that we can do. So by Prabhupada's instruction, I can engage in philosophical speculation about what Prabhupada means, because what he says is not directly in Shastra, and we get a very different picture from Shastra. And so accepting that there's some truth in what Prabhupada says, so that's what I try to do. I don't reject what Prabhupada says, but I do try to understand it in terms of what Prabhupada calls our primary authority, Shastra. So what I come up with is that it's just like if you have children, you have a bad kid, it's a big headache. And so if a disciple is just sort of a perpetual, or what's that word I'm thinking of? Like Dennis the Menace, just continuously doing the wrong thing. It is a headache for the guru. It is so in that sense, any parent, and Prabhupada, I asked him one time, can I see you as a spiritual father? And Prabhupada said, yes. He said, Guru, spiritual father. And he said, the Gayatri is the spiritual mother, so then spiritual birth takes place. So, but for any parent, having a chronically misbehaved kid, it's a big headache. It's miserable. And so that's how I understand it. Not that there's literally a transfer of karma. So if I initiate someone that was a thief, I have a thief's karma now. No, thank you.
Well, they say that it makes the person sick, but that doesn't make sense, because then no guru would be sick, because every guru above them would take that on. That there's some physical illness.
Oh yeah, Prabhupada sometimes said, yeah, that's a very good point. That's very clever. That if it were true that the guru takes the karma, then whatever karma I take, my guru would take that. So that's a very good point. So that's how I understand it. Krishna, in the Brahma Samhita, which Lord Chaitanya personally endorsed, it said clearly that Krishna burns up the karma of those who surrender to him. If someone accepts a guru and then doesn't follow the principles, then of course there's new karma. And it's it's not nice for any parent to get a phone call in the middle of the night, your kid's in jail. So so I take it in that sense, just the general unhappiness caused by having a disciple that just doesn't do the right thing.
So are there any effects when someone takes that vow and then breaks the vow of like whatever you're vowing to do or not do?
Well, certain activities are against our vow. If I vow that I'm not going to take drugs, and then if someone takes drugs, they said they wouldn't do it, and they did do it. As far as relationship with the guru, I've never rejected a disciple. I've had some reject me because they joined the Gaudiya Math or because whatever, But I just probably didn't really reject anyone. And parents don't generally reject children. So we can break our vow, but it doesn't necessarily break the relationship with the guru. I saw many times that if someone had fallen and then came back, Prabhupada would just immediately forgive them. They would just do the right thing.
But there are karmic consequences to breaking that vow, those vows.
Well, the consequences don't just come from breaking the vow. They come from the activity themselves. The reason we vow not to do certain things is because those activities bring on a reaction. So it's the activity itself. Why would we forbid something which is benign?
Well, what about in the positive? If you're vowing to chant 16 rounds and say for something you can't, you're still breaking that vow.
True. Well, I guess it depends. If one breaks the vow just whimsically because they have a sort of a, if someone breaks, let's say, the chanting vow, as you pointed out, a positive vow to chant. If someone breaks the vow just because they're arrogant and smug and the person doesn't think they have to keep their word to a guru, then yes, there's a reaction, but the reaction is more for the arrogance and the stupidity and just sort of the willful, the willful dishonesty. But if someone's trying their best, let's say someone is trying their best to chant, and as we know, a lot of devotees struggle with japa. I've never personally had that problem, but so then if they're trying their best, then Krishna understands, and of course there will be some effect of not chanting your rounds, but Krishna understands. But so it depends on one's attitude, whether you're really trying your best to chant your rounds.
Thank you. Okay, so I have one last one. This one's I've never gotten a satisfactory answer.
So the other one was actually penultimate, which means second to last.
Oh, right. I did say that before. In the Gita, I think twice Krishna says, he'll make a statement and then he'll say, that is my opinion. And I'm wondering why God would say that it's his opinion when he's God.
Okay, Krishna, okay, a few times, or several times in the Gita, Krishna says, that is my opinion, and so if he's God, how's it just an opinion? First of all, what you have to realize is that's a translation. Krishna did not originally speak the Gita in English. And usually the Sanskrit word that Krishna is using is mati, which is just a simple feminine Sanskrit noun formed in the usual way by adding the feminine ending T. T-I. That's where you get words like Shruti or Smriti or Bhakti. Those are all, in Sanskrit, there are different ways that you can form nouns from verbal roots, and one of them is by adding the feminine ending T-I. And interesting, I know this will fascinate everyone, that in verbs whose root has a vowel of A and it ends in N, then the N tends to be dropped before adding the suffix. I know many of you have been losing sleep at night over this. So, for example, mati, Krishna says mati or mama, that is my mati, which could also mean my conclusion, my thought, my view of, so it's not literally an opinion. It's just what you think about something. And if you're God, then of course your thoughts are perfect. Like, for example, so from man, which is where we get the word manas, the mind. So it's that verbal root man, from which you get manas, the mind, or manasa, mental, and so and you add ti and drop the n, so man becomes mati. And so, just like, for example, gum, which is the verb to go. It's not chewing gum, it's the verb gum. That's actually where we get the English word go. So it can be an M. So if you drop the nasal M and just add T, you get gati, which means your destination that you're going to. So anyway, so mati, from the verb man. In fact, I guess why not? I mean, maybe see if I can do it very, very quickly. Just go right to the Sanskrit dictionary. Again, the word opinion is used. Krishna says, that is my opinion. But let's see. Like, for example, Krishna, Lord Chaitanya would say to people, if they would say, you are God, he would say, Krishna matirastu, let your mind be in Krishna. So he used the word mati just to mean the mind. So mati can mean devotion of prayer, worship of him. It can mean a thought, a design, an intention, a resolution, determination. So if you have a determination, this is what it means. That's also mati. Yeah, it can mean one's resolve, what you've determined, what you resolved upon. That's all mati. It can be opinion, notion, idea, belief, conviction. Krishna could say, that is my conviction. That is my view. It can also mean understanding. That is my understanding. Intelligence, sense, judgment. It can mean that is my judgment.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yes. So again, it's good to remember sometimes that Krishna didn't speak the Gita originally in English. And that's why Prabhupada did put it in Sanskrit, so we could see what Krishna actually said. Let's see. Okay, here's a question from Umair. I hope I pronounced his name right. I'm sorry. Thank you. In what situation would it be beneficial to accept something, food, recreation, etc., in the mode of goodness, but not connected to Krishna? Is the mode of goodness to be cultivated separately from spiritual practices on the path of bhakti? No, because if something's in the mode of goodness, why not offer it to Krishna? Food is easy. If you're in a situation where you can't just like bow down and ring a bell in front of like all these people because they'll think you're crazy, then hit them over the head with a bell and then do it. Just kidding. That was a joke. Please don't hit people over the head with a bell. So, but in your mind you can offer. So there's never a reason not to offer food and goodness. As far as recreation, thank God, Krishna mentions that in the Gita, and he says, Yuktahara viharasya, which means moderate in our eating, like don't eat too much or too little. And Krishna also says, Biharasi, we should be moderate in recreation. We need time to relax. Even in Mahabharata, when Krishna was in Dwarka, they had a resort area. It's called Rivataka Mountain, where various pastimes were performed. It was on the mainland, so they would take boats from Dwarka to the mainland. And it was a resort area. I mean, everywhere in the world, there are mountain resort areas. And Krishna went there with Arjuna and the Yadus, and they had, for example, they had evening entertainment. There was a stage, and they had comedians, they had singers and dancers, and and they had a whole, it's like they had a whole show. They had a whole show in the evening, and there were places for bathing. There was recreation. For one interesting thing is that when Krishna visited the Pandavas in Indraprastha, they had a resort area there too. I mean, having resort areas is a part of human life. So in Hastinapur, not Hastinapur, I mean Indraprastha, the resort area was on the Jamuna River. And so in the summer, when it got hot, they would just go down to the river and just, and take vacation. And what's interesting is among the many things people were doing, it said the women had a wrestling tournament. So if you think in Vedic culture, women are just kind of, they never really become adults, or they just do what they're told. The women, they had a wrestling tournament, the women. So that was very interesting. So we need recreation, just like Krishna created the world, so there are days and nights. Why? Because you need to rest. Your mind needs to rest, and your body needs to rest. And recreation is a way of resting the mind. And again, it should be innocent. As far as the mode of goodness, no, the mode of goodness is the spiritual platform, but with impurities. Prabhupada used to say that it's like you go to the hospital, the disease, and you go in the hospital with 2 arms and 2 legs, and when you come out, you still have 2 arms and 2 legs, hopefully. And goodness is the soul's nature, pure goodness. Shuddha sattva, vishuddha sattva. But in the material world, so goodness is the spiritual platform. But when it becomes contaminated, it's called the mode of goodness. But it's the same thing, just pure or impure. Okay, so I answered that question. Maybe I want a washing machine or something. Let's see. My friend that said that funny thing before, take a break or you'll break down. Yes, I agree with that. So, thank you very much. Okay, here's one. Another question. This is a bit different than what you've been chatting about. However, I've had the question for a while. You say quite often that materialism is circular reasoning. Can you elaborate on this? Why is the mind not their first principle or self-evident? That's interesting. Someone's actually paying attention to what I'm saying. So, when I say that materialism is circular reasoning, I'm referring to the philosophy, the explicit philosophy. By materialism, it doesn't mean someone who just runs around, tries to get a lot of sense gratification. But here, materialism means a philosophy, a serious philosophy that nothing is real except matter. And as far as that being circular reasoning, it is circular reasoning. What I've said of circular reasoning is if you don't provide a proper foundation for your knowledge. Now, in this case, I was not saying materialism is circular reasoning. Actually, I was saying that that assuming that there's a real world out there, assuming the reality of the material world is circular. Whereas if you say, I accept as a self-evident first principle of my knowledge system that there's a real world, and I'm accepting that not empirically, in a sense. It's not that I'm doing a test on that. It's just that I experience the world, which you could say in a sense is an empirical experience, but I just experience the world, and I experience it as real, and the reality of the world presents itself to me in such a powerful way that I can't doubt it, and therefore it's properly basic as a first or foundational principle of my knowledge. So that what's circular is if you don't explain why you're accepting the world as real, and just assume it's real because, for example, there's a real building, there's a real car, there's a real person, a body, and therefore there's a real world. The circularity is saying the world is real because there are real things in the world. That's a circular argument. But if you say that the world in general is real because it presents itself to us in a way which is self-evident, and therefore, based on that experience of a self-evident real world, I accept it, then that's not circular. A little technical. If that's giving you a headache, just go have another cup of nectar, you'll forget all about it. So, okay, actually, I can tell everybody that's watching, I am preparing a paper I'm going to give Krishna willing on January 19th in Gainesville, Florida, in a very important conference on consciousness in science. It's sort of like science and religion. And it's being co-hosted by the University of Florida. I'm going to speak on, actually, maybe I can read you what I'm going to speak on. I wrote a little abstract. It's posted now. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. Okay, here it is. Here's the abstract, means it's like a little summary. This is what I'm going to speak on. I'm probably going to speak about 30, 35 minutes. Okay. If Aristotle, Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, if Aristotle, Newton, Jefferson, and countless other great thinkers were right, we all live in a bidimensional universe, physical and metaphysical. This view can also be demonstrated by basic epistemology. For 2,500 years of recorded Western history, physics and metaphysics have at times lived in peace, at times gone to war as allies, and at times gone to war against each other. This history clearly shows that human society has most prospered in times of peace and cooperation between those focused on both the physical and the metaphysical dimension of reality. Today, how would such cooperation impact the rational and scientific study of consciousness? Is there an epistemically justifiable way to integrate physical and metaphysical insights into the nature and potential of consciousness? What would that integral view of consciousness look like? So that, just in a few words, what I'm going to speak on Saturday at, I forget, you can look at it online, that conference. So I don't think there's any other questions from Facebook. Let's see. I don't think so. Oh, here's one. I've come across Srila, some devotee, who claims to be the one evoking love of God like 500 years ago. He has testimonies, crying and laughing. He also preaches Jesus stuff. He was expressing if you could have a debate with him, and I really look up to you in Krishna consciousness and would love to see if this is a real deal or not. Doesn't sound very real. If someone claims to be the one, evoking love of God, just like Lord Chaitanya did, but hardly anyone's ever heard of the person. It doesn't sound right. But as far as this person, Bonnie Perry sent this in. Maybe you could send me some more information about this person. Take a look. Sure, no problem asking. Someone wished me Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. I think that's it. Here's something. So, Casey Martin, I just got a letter from him. In previous lectures, you have described the fact of our bidimensional reality, that is, physical matter and metaphysical objects, such as equality, existing simultaneously. How does one then take this logical argument to the next step, that there is a metaphysical objective soul, and then God, specifically Krishna, as described in the Vedic literature? Thank you. The next step, I'm going to be speaking about that. The next step, basically, see, if you understand the world is bidimensional, then it doesn't prove that Krishna is God, but what it does prove is that we need a metaphysical science, and we haven't got one. I mean, we do have one, people just don't know about it. It's Krishna consciousness. So my point is that would be that if you understand you live in a bidimensional universe, you need to start paying a lot more attention to the metaphysical dimension of reality, and you need to start asking questions. What would have to be the case for there to be a bidimensional universe? Just like scientist cosmogony is the branch of science that tries to understand where the universe came from, the origin of the universe. So if we show, and we can show very easily, that we live in a bidimensional universe, and the natural question is, how the heck did that happen? It's like, what else must be true? What else is likely true? And if we live in a bidimensional universe, what opportunities does that reveal to us in terms of acquiring metaphysical knowledge? So if nothing else, it opens people to the need to seriously study, investigate, and try to understand what the metaphysical dimension is. And that's the dimension that includes morality, it includes God, it includes the very idea of truth. Because you can say, for example, you can report about what your senses see, like, I see a horse, I see my own face in the mirror, or I'm eating an apple, or this or that, or, or I just heard some music. So you can report your experiences. But to say that they're true is not empirical, that's actually philosophical and metaphysical. Because there's a correspondence issue. To what extent, for example, does the music you heard, to what extent does it correspond to an objective reality, an objective sound that is occurring outside of you? If you see something, if you see a forest, to what extent are your senses giving you a reliable picture of the forest? Now, we can test that. For example, you see certain things and then people can go, but you see, even if they say to confirm it, like, okay, we're going to measure all the trees in the forest and see if you're, but then again, that involves touching, it involves others seeing. So you're kind of stuck inside the world of your senses. And if your senses are not reliable, but consistent, what if your senses are consistently unreliable? It's just like, what if someone is born in such a way that every time they see the color green, they see blue? So what if it actually is green? We can even show, let's say, physiologically or neurologically that somehow that person's nervous system is kind of bending or distorting the light rays that are coming in. But still, if the person consistently sees green as blue, then, so what if there are certain built-in and entirely consistent illusions in the way we perceive the world? And then, of course, then you have to get into the point, what about phenomenology? What about the world as you experience it and the world as described mathematically, let's say, by physicists or subatomic physicists? What about the Newtonian description of the world? What about the subatomic description of the world? It's also called quantum physics. What about the artistic description of the world? Which one is real? Are they all real? Is one more real than the other? So even when you start asking questions like what is real, you're in metaphysical territory. Because animals, it's not that, let's say an animal, is chomping, just eating some, a bush or something and says, what do I mean by bush? And am I the one eating? Or, as far as we know, animals don't just go into philosophical reveries like that. So as soon as you, because if you just take whatever you experience as true, you're kind of skipping a lot of problematic things, like to what extent do your senses give you perfectly reliable information about what's out there. And I'm going to be addressing all these topics in my talk, so stay tuned. Listen to my lecture. Empty out your bank account, send me all your money, never mind things like, your own welfare and that of your family and friends. I'm just kidding, that was a joke. Please believe me, that was a joke. So, anyway, stay tuned and try to watch that, and we'll answer a lot of the questions. So right now, it's that magic time when I've got to say goodbye. So thank you all very much for listening. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you all, or just see your names there again very soon. Hare Krishna.